The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining the webinar. We've got myself and Brian on the line here. Brian?
Hi, Shane. Yes, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to learn more about AutoVu LPR. And we'll kick off here in about 3 minutes with some quick introductions, and then we'll dig into the meat of the presentation.
Appreciate people joining. We appreciate people joining on time and early too. That's a really good sign. It's a really good start.
It is. Punctuality is a nice habit. Looks like more people are signing on as we speak.
Excellent. Yes, in just 2 more minutes to get this kicked off here.
Absolutely.
All right.
We'll start in about a minute.
Let's see if we can get those that last little bit of jump in numbers, but I think we're pretty good on the attendees so far here. All right, I think we'll probably continue to have a couple of people jumping on and joining here, but Brian, why don't you kick us off with the introductions?
Great. Well, thanks, Shane. And thanks, everybody, for joining us this morning. A great morning, afternoon, whatever time zone you happen to be in. I'm actually in the central time zone, so it's noon here. My name is Brian Faring. I am with PCS Mobile. We are one of Genetec's premier partners and an integrator for the AutoVu LPR system. Wanted to thank everyone again for joining us. I wanted to introduce Shane Farrell, who is with the Genetec AutoVu inside sales team and is, in my opinion, one of the experts in LPR systems. So, Shane, please take it away.
All right. Hey, well, thank you, everybody, and welcome. We really appreciate your interest in AutoVu, AutoVu being the brand name for Genetec's license plate recognition product. So today we're going to talk to you a little bit about increasing your city's security. We're going to talk about our license plate recognition solution and how it works. I think there was a nice high-level overview of our game plan, but I'll kind of take you through that. We're going to start out with a brief PowerPoint. I'm not normally a big PowerPoint person. We will then move to a tour of our in-vehicle solution, followed by our back office software, The plan for the webinar is probably to do about a half an hour, 40 minutes of presentation, and we're going to save about 20 minutes at the end for Q&A. Now, that being said, I absolutely do encourage everyone here to participate, type questions in the chat all throughout. We definitely want to make this as relevant as possible for all of the attendees, and your feedback and comments is going to be helpful in guiding me. Normally I'm used to doing one-on-one webinars, and of course, if there's more interest, we're always happy to do that. So you'll have to bear with me as we move through a little bit less back and forth. So first and foremost, we've got to talk about Genetec and our core mission and what we do. And our messaging is that we help you protect the everyday. It's a big component of what we do, why we get up in the morning, and who we are. As a company, we really started out primarily in the core security industry, meaning we're talking about videos, video management systems is one of our big platform. We do access control, and we do license plate recognition. As time has gone on, we've moved into a company that provides business intelligence, operations, so that we can help you understand your environment and improve it. A quick note on that. I think the best way to really talk about who we are and what we do and what license plate recognition is, I've actually got two quick stories for you. So the first one is about a town in the Midwest. We work a lot with police departments. We know that law and public safety has a lot of challenges. So one of the challenges that was encountered recently was middle of the night, officers are called to the scene of what they thought was an accident on the highway. Something like 2 or 3 a.m., they arrive on scene, and sure enough, they find that the driver of the vehicle has a gunshot wound, and they start to treat the crime as a homicide. Middle of the night, on the highway, no witnesses, not exactly a good case. Luckily, this particular town had a traffic video surveillance system. They were able to check the video footage and find that as that car started to careen off the road, there was another vehicle that had pulled up alongside it. Using that and knowing the location they were coming, they backtracked their system, and they did have license plate recognition cameras en route. They were able to run the lead of that vehicle and identify the shooter. So it went from a very challenging case to solve to they were staking out their suspect outside their house, and within 13 hours of the crime committed, they arrested the suspect with the murder weapon still in their possession. A second quick story happened to be with the university we're working with. They had 3 shootings on campus in, I think, something like a 1-month period. They were looking to move to a license plate recognition solution to help solve and deter these types of incidents. And, the university PD, being what it was, and bureaucracy, had a tough time issuing a PO. They worked with our local Genetec sales team, and we actually did something special for them and helped put a camera up for them in the interim on their perimeter. And within the first 2 or 3 days of that camera being installed, they had cleared an existing suspect and identified the shooter. Moving to some practical case studies, certainly we have collateral that I would be happy to share with you guys. Corman Park Police is actually a police agency we work with here in Canada, and their real-world application, not just maybe solving homicides, which is always fantastic, but their big use case of the system is they're actually identifying unregistered vehicles, suspended drivers. They found a 400% increase in stopping and pulling these drivers off the road. We know one of the challenges law enforcement faces is you guys are working with big data pools, lots of lists. For example, NCIC is over 12 million entries. There's still law enforcement agents out there that are getting hot lists of certain cars and license plates to be on the lookout for throughout the day. which from a practical standpoint is almost impossible to actually monitor and track. Now, this is where license plate recognition comes in as a tool that allows you to quickly identify these vehicles in a safe way. Your officers can be driving around, keeping their eyes on the road, and comparing it to multiple hot lists at the same time. One of the big drivers in our move from security to operations, one of our recent success stories, is Chicago. So Chicago certainly had a very large violent crime rate. They had 808 homicides in 2016. It was a national crisis for them. They were an existing Genetec customer, working with our video solution, working with our license plate recognition solution. But over time, they were looking to see how they can actually leverage that and do something different. And working collaboratively with our partner and with our customer, we actually developed a new solution that brought additional data insights. So we have a solution, CityGraph, that lets them correlate this data, tying the license plate recognition together with the video, with gunshot detection, and using all these metrics to help drive this crime down. At the end of the day, they've seen a 22% reduction in shootings. Their arrival time to get on site and help address these issues is down 39%. So starting to move a little bit more towards our specific license plate recognition product. A lot of what we were talking about before, AutoVu allows you to identify who is entering and exiting your city, lets you know about license plates, pinpoint suspicious vehicles, and improve the operations and planning, because once you know what's happening and where it's happening, you can better address and better plan around it. One of Genetec's big strengths is we allow an architecture that we allow a role-based architecture that lets you collaborate different sources and bring everything into a centralized hub. Well, the workflow for license plate recognition, the cameras are out there. We use primarily our Sharp cameras that we make. These are license plate recognition cameras that operate on the edge, meaning they're out there. They could be recording video or not, but at the end of the day, they're out there looking for license plates all the time. When a vehicle passes within view, a read event occurs whereby we capture the license plate, do our optical character recognition, and return a result. And we can also pair that with a color context image of the background. Talking a little about the workflow. So we go from capturing a plate, detecting it, and that could happen automatically or with a trigger. Typically within the law enforcement market, that is done automatically. We analyze that plate. We can compare it to a database. Again, that could be NCIC, it could be unwanted vehicles, it could be a BOLO list. And then that provides us a whole bunch of different reactions. Because we're using a unified platform, we can push other types of actions based on those. So we can talk about sound and color alerts. We can send email, we can send notifications, we can activate alarms or threat levels, and use that to kind of self-drive the system. Again, helping elevate your operational intelligence and simplifying your life, letting you make better decisions. At the end of the day, we know law enforcement is not always about monitoring. At the end of the day, you might be coming back and reporting. So you might want to go back. Things might happen after the fact. We'll definitely show a lot of that in our solution today, how you can take smart actions based on, there was a gunshot at Monday at 10 a.m. and now all of a sudden we might be interested in, give me a list of all the vehicles that were moving away from that area at that time. Maybe vehicles that were moving away at a high speed to help pinpoint down on suspects. One of the big changes we've seen in our system is, not so new anymore, but we have released a new fixed camera, the Sharp V. The Sharp V camera is a high resolution edge processed camera. It's a PoE plus varifocal unit, which means that at the end of the day, this is a very simple camera to deploy, power, and use in a variety of environments. Speaking of very new developments in the license plate recognition world, we have made a move to machine learning. So just this past year, Genetec has fully reinvented the way we internally read license plates. By that I mean we have built a deep neural network of LPR images, and we have trained that machine learning algorithm using our own images and cameras so that we can have better performance. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing for our customers and clients. So if we talk about a before and after, we've moved to a high 90s% read rate across Canada and the US with a massive decrease in false positives. We know that every time you're deploying the system, you might be looking for criminals, you might be looking for people who any variety of reasons, but you might be looking for vehicles, and we know that having the best possible solution in place allows you to do your job better. One of the big things Genetec does is we give you the tools to collaborate with surrounding agencies. We know different solutions on the market. One of the most important tenets to Genetec is data security and data privacy. That's why it's very important to Genetec that you have full control over your own data, what databases you tie into and touch, and how you share and use that data is entirely in your decision. So Genetec does offer tools allowing you to connect to other agencies at your discretion, but that data remains fully owned by you at any and all time. Talking about some of our other recent changes, we have pushed additional vehicle analytics, be it virtual loop with our cameras. I mentioned loop before, so you could have triggered reading based on motion within the frame of view of a camera. That could help you detect a vehicle that maybe doesn't even have a license plate. Direction of travel, which way the vehicle is moving. And with our SharpV camera, we do have a built-in speed estimation on board. Additional operational units continue to come out of Genetec. One of the interesting ones there is Genetec Traffic Sense, where, instead of looking at the traditional method of speed enforcement, speed at a certain point, we all know people start to report speed traps or, give people heads up. Measuring speed at any one point only gives you, one piece of the total pie. With Traffic Sense, you can look at an average speed enforcement type of scenario where you're reading a license plate at two different locations. So by reading it across, we know your average speed across the entire length of highway, and that gives you better reporting metrics. And my apologies, we are Canadian, so you'll notice some of these distances are in kilometers an hour. Just talking about having an intelligent citywide system. As cities continue to move towards smart cities and smarter policing, we do see a need for having good actionable data that's automated across the system, allowing you to bring in multiple and different sensors. All right. Any questions so far? I'm taking a quick look at the chat. With that, we are going to move into our mobile solution. Perfect. So I've opened that up there. And we've got our license plate recognition vehicle moving around here. So this is our in-vehicle mobile license plate recognition solution. We call that Patroller. Patroller is made, with the user in mind. So certainly we have a simple touch-based interface, I should say, sorry. And I'll just kind of run you through a couple of the tasks there. I am using a simulator for the purpose of the demo. I'm not actually driving around here in Colorado. So as my car continues to drive around, I will start to put some reads through in the system. So just a little bit about what we're seeing at the top of our screen. I'll go back to live. At the top of our screen, we're seeing a little audit trail of the different reads as they occur. We see that with every read event, we have both a color context image of the vehicle, as well as on the left-hand side, we have an image of the license plate, the interpretation of what we read, and a date, time, and location stamp tied in here. I'm going to pause this so we stop getting all these reads. We can quickly jump back and forth to see either the map view or emphasis on the reading event itself. At the end of the day, there's also a sound cue to let you know when these reads and hits are occurring, so that you as a police officer can keep your eyes on the road and stay safe. We'll kind of break through this here piece by piece. So we have, already did that part. We'll talk a little bit about our hits. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but as we went through, we did have quite a few hits occur, 3 of them to be precise. We can see that in our first button. So for patroller, a hit is anywhere where we are seeing a license plate and matching it to a list. So we have clicking on the hits button. We now have 3 hits that we can address. We see that there's actually 2 different colors. I have loaded one hot list, which is this kind of crazy blue. I've named this our NCIC list, and we can see that vehicle 103 EEN. We've matched to that plate, and it is on. I've marked this as a category stolen, versus 041 PSG. I have marked that as a wanted vehicle. With all of our hits, the operator is prompted to first either accept or reject that hit. So this one, we're going to accept it. And then once you accept it, you're then prompted to either enforce or not enforce. So there's a little bit more logic in that. The idea there is that first, the operator is prompted to validate the information, and then you take a decision. So there could be a vehicle that is in violation. It could be on a list, but maybe it's a police vehicle, maybe something like that. So you might choose not to enforce that. Similarly, we might have reads that we feel are fully off. So I'll take the 103 EEN. Maybe we've actually determined that E was an 8. Our system does use fuzzy matching being a N-1 type characteristic, where if we say that a 3 and an 8 are very close, maybe the plate's a little damaged, the system will still return a hit, even if it's not an exact match. So in this case, let's say that the plate should have been 108 EEN, and 108 EEN is actually not a hit. So as I correct the value, you notice that hit actually addressed itself. It actually rechecks it against the database, and we see that 108 EEN is now its own read event. Coming back to our last hit, I had color-coded this one yellow. I'd put this out as an amber alert, and I'm going to go ahead and reject that one being a misread. And that rejection category, as we just saw, is customizable. At the same time, we can do a manual capture. So manual capture allows you to basically put in any license plate. Again, this could be a paper plate, a dealer plate in the window that the automatic license plate recognition system will not detect. And we can enter that in here as an ABC123. I can say that they are from, we'll pick a state. We're going to go, we'll go with Colorado, and you choose the camera. At that time, the system will take a snapshot from the license plate recognition camera that you're selecting. Next up, we have new wanted. This one always very relevant. You might get a call in while in the field, a BOLO list. So certainly you can update your hot lists from the back office from a central location. But if you're an operator in the vehicle and somebody calls in a BOLO, you can quickly enter it here. So I'll enter DEF 456 from, we'll go with Wyoming. Be on the lookout. So as we add that, if we drive across a DEF 456, we'll alert on that vehicle the same way we would were they a wanted vehicle. Playlist quickly allows you to identify your list. So I can see here that I had updated all my lists today, when was the last time they were synchronized, and how many entries are in each of these lists. For the last one I'll talk about here is our pause option. So certainly sometimes police officers may be off duty. There might be cases where you're pulling in for lunch. You don't want to be reading license plates. It's happened. We've had that come across. You can click on the pause button on the screen to quickly pause or resume reading from the system. All right, and the last stop on our tour might be the biggest one, of course, is we're going to talk about Security Desk. Security Desk is the back office system where you will be able to run all that reporting we talked about a little earlier. So in here, you can see that I actually have a favorites and recent items. I can click back on here to browse all tasks. The very interesting thing about Genetec is that our product is modular, meaning you can buy and pay for just the elements that you want or need, and you can add on over time. If we look at my interface here, I'm using a internal demo license. So we see there's some tasks here that are green that are for video. We've got some red ones for door activities and access control. And I've got my yellow ones for license plate recognition. So certainly somebody that's only interested in license plate recognition would only see the tasks relevant to them. They wouldn't get such a busy interface. But even beyond that, the way we operate is we have very much a type of tabbed interface. So different users will have their own views. If I were to close my page, it will prompt me and say, hey, Shane, do you want to save these tabs and what you're working on? So the next time I log in, these will already be here. So a lot of the time, I don't even end up opening my tasks from here. Most of the time, I log in and my work is kind of already ready to go. I'll take you through a quick tour of a couple of what I think are the most relevant tasks here. Certainly, if there's anything that you guys are seeing, guys and ladies, I should say, please type them in the chat. I'd be happy to come back and speak to them a little later in the QA period. So first up, we'll talk about monitoring. So monitoring here being a live monitoring task for our events. In this case, I have set up some simulated fixed stationary LPR cameras at the entrance and exit of Genetec's corporate campus. I've brought in a JPEG image and treated it as a map. And I have created actually some parking zones here. As reads occur, we will see those pop up in the tile, and on the screen itself, we'll have a little audit trail. As I kind of pull this down, we can look at the event info up top. And as these reads come through, we'll see them update. I've programmed them to come into tile 2. And for my parking lot, we'll actually start to see the count go up here. I've designated 490 spots. If I put in 4 more, our lot will show as having 50 people in it. So again, this is just a real-time monitoring task, very modular. We can hide and show areas and dashboards as we like and take some additional action with that. Moving on to our reads task. So reads is probably one of the main reporting tools that everyone will use. This allows you to go back and query all the reads that were done by your units. So here I've run a report for the last 1 day. As you see at the top here, that could be years, months, minutes, seconds. It could be a time range that you can set. You have a lot of choices there. Then you query which LPR units you want to run that report on. I have selected all of them. I could select just my vehicle if I wanted to. We can drill down that information. We can say, hey, did this read generate a hit? Well, we have our yes or no. we can look for specific license plates, either full or partial plates. So maybe I have a ABC 12 star, and I only want to look for a partial plate. Maybe somebody's calling in, some car almost hit them. They got caught only part of the plate. As you run that report, this is the information we get here, and we're able to drill in a little bit more. I can kind of pull these into the tile. I can either maximize these full screen, give me more or less info. I'm able to export that report either as an Excel, a CSV, or a PDF file, and choose that with or without images. If I move back to my multi-tile, I see here I can actually configure this report pretty quickly and easily. So maybe I want these pictures to be a bit smaller. They're pretty big right now, so I can make them pretty small like that. I can actually resize them. I can say, hey, you know what, this context image, put it at the end. I could just drag it over there, and there we go. Now it's all the way at the end. So you can configure your columns and your information very quickly and easily. As I move on to the next report for hits, we can actually see that it's very similar to the first report. So one of the things that's nice here as a user of the system is that as you start to move into and use the reporting, there's not a big learning curve here, because once you know one report, you kind of know them all. So here I've run a report for the last 1 day, again, of all my units, but this is, again, hits report, so this is only those matches that we did. I've actually pulled into the tile here my one Amber Alert hit, which I could just clear these out and put them back in live for you. So as I drag my Amber Alert onto the tile, we'll see it there. If I pull my NCIC hits, I can put it into tile 2, for instance, and we'll see it there. We can choose to print just this one hit if we want, and here we have the map piece tied into it as well too. So we see that we've hit on a hot list. The category of the hot list was missing, and we see that it was Patroller Unit 1 that made this read. And again, you can name that patroller vehicle per your liking. We have our hot list and permit editor built into the system, so certainly we can interface with different lists. For instance, an NCIC, we can bring those lists in a couple of different ways. If you have a file that you want to import, we could take that in as either a CSV or a text file, or there's certain agencies we work with where we connect to those either in a SFTP site, where we're able to kind of pull those down into the system and help auto-generate and auto-update those hot lists for you, again, trying to automate and remove some manual labor. The next report is our reads hits per day. So here I've run a report on my mobile vehicle for the last 12 days, and we can quickly and easily see, well, how many reads we have. You'll notice which days I did demos, because today I have 56 reads, and a lot of these days I have 0. You can also see how many hits we had per day. And then beyond that, if you noticed earlier, I mentioned how you can either accept or reject a hit and then enforce or not enforce the hits. Well, that's actually all tracked here on a granular level too. I know a lot of our PDs work also as, community ambassadors, trying to be a positive influence in their communities. A lot of time you might want some of your PDs to issue not just tickets, but maybe sometimes there's citations or warnings. This gives you a good audit trail to say, okay, well, look, we had maybe 20 hits in a day. We're supposed to not enforce 10 of them, so we can see that, we had 20 valid hits, and we are issuing the right amount of warning citations. Moving on to the last, and what I think is maybe one of the most interesting components here of reporting, is our multi-region report. So this is something where we have worked with PDs in the past. There's one that we worked with in the Northeast that was actually helped solve a string of bank robberies with this. What it is, and this actually came in as a feature request from one of our PD customers, is it allows you to search for a geographical region on the map and correlate that data. So what that means is I'm showing my reads as they occur on the map, and if I choose and overlap these zones, I can say, show me only the reads that are common to both areas. So again, this just gives us a drill down back to the map level, similar to what we saw in the vehicle, and we're able to review this information. So again, that use case in the Northeast was string of bank robberies, and they had an interest as to, bank robbery A occurred, I'll just pick a time, Monday morning at 9 a.m. Bank robbery 2 occurred Thursday at 4 p.m. So show me only the license plate reads that are common to both locations at that time. And they were able to drastically nail down their suspect list. In terms of the tour of the software, that's mainly what I had planned. Before we move to Q&A, I had one last important anecdote that I wanted to share with the group. I know I kicked it off with my story, my tale of two sets of cases solved and lives assisted. And you might think, well, Shane, that's a great salesy story. But the interesting anecdote about that Midwest PD and that university is both of those cases came across my desk on the same day, actually. And I think for the big part of who we are and what we do, why we do, be it from the sales team to our local R&D team that's helping build the hardware, to our software and computer vision team that's building the smarts behind it that makes it all work. I think that's a really big part of why we do what we do and why we come in every day, and really helps us. Really helps motivate us to do our best job and help make the world a better place. That's who we are, and I think that's why we continue to offer great customer service. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thanks, Shane. I greatly appreciate the presentation. It's very informative. I don't see any questions on the chat, so in that case, we'll conclude our presentation. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. You have our contact information. If you have any additional questions or would like more information on Genetec's LPR solutions, please feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to go much further in depth and help you select a solution that would be appropriate for your specific situation. So, again, thank you all very much. We greatly appreciate your attendance.
I'll stay on the line an extra 2-3 minutes here. I'm going to stop the recording presentation side, but certainly if there's any questions, people are still around or maybe typing out a big essay of a question, I'm here and listening.